Well, they're not that large. We'll
Yeah, I
certainly
couldn't
take a look at
imagine
it.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someday we can look at it, but definitely right now we're still legal to have the meetings by Zoom.
Yeah, I really think, yeah, I think if that we were going to consider having a live meeting, that we'd want to look at a larger space. We'd want to go to some auditorium or Boys and Girls Club gym or something like that, because our spaces just aren't going to fit everybody.
And then
Well,
there would
hopefully by
still be all
September, we
kinds
can
of,
do that.
All right.
Good, Harold.
Hey, Lourdes,
Yes.
you want to email Ms. Vega?
Yes, I think she
Ms.
was.
Vega's on.
She's on.
Shiana, hello, great. Oh, I see her now, fantastic. I was just looking for your info, good.
She's
Just one quick item of business.
It's like she's been doing this forever. She's the most well lit.
One quick item of business, Mr. Chair. If it's okay with you, keeping with the past few months, after you give the announcement regarding notice, I can give instructions on comment, if you'd like.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
All right, so I feel like I always mess up this order. I guess we should start with, I've gotten away from, I think, doing this in the exact order we're supposed to do it. Do we do the roll call first, then the pledge, then the announcement? Mr. Fitzpatrick, I'm asking you for guidance.
Historically, the first thing has been the pledge.
Okay. So does Wendy, is she going to put up the flag?
Yep.
'Cause I think that's what she did last Zoom, correct? All right, so let's stand for the pledge.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right.
The flag's reversed, but that's all right. As long as it's not upside down in distress position, I think we're okay. That's just the other side. All right. Okay, then we'll do roll call and then the announcement regarding notice, correct?
Correct.
All right, so if you can do roll call, please, Director.
I sure can. H. Foreman,
Here.
A. Impastato,
Here.
A. Lewitt. Oh, Aaron's not on. D. Mello. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yep. E. Seitzman,
Here.
L. Smith.
Here.
No, Levon's there. And L. Vega. Welcome.
All right, that's everybody. Okay, so announcement regarding notice. I would like to advise those present that notice of this regular meeting of the Housing Authority of the City of Hoboken has been provided to the public in accordance with provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act. Notice of this regular meeting of Thursday, June 11th, 2020 was given by publication of the annual meeting notice of the authority with amendments as necessary and was sent to the Jersey Journal and Star Ledger as a public notice on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. As notification to the general public of the meeting and sent to the City Clerk of Hoboken on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020, with a copy of the agenda to be posted on the bulletin board in City Hall, the Hoboken Public Library, and the Hoboken Police Department headquarters. I direct the minutes of this meeting to state that I have announced that adequate notice of this meeting has been given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. In addition, I direct that the minutes of this meeting, to state the following. As a result of the restrictions established by Executive Order 107, issued by the Governor of New Jersey with respect to the need to limit public gatherings to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, the meeting will be conducted exclusively through the use of communications equipment. This procedure is in accordance with NJSA 10:4-9.3, which states that a public body shall not be deemed to have violated any provision of the Open Public Meetings Act in conducting the meeting by means of communication or other electronic equipment. In addition, this procedure complies with Article 3, Section 7 of the Authority Bylaws, which allows for participation in authority meetings by members of the Board of Commissioners by means of telephone, conference, or similar communications equipment. Now, Mr. Fitzpatrick, if you could add your addendum to that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In keeping with the Housing Authority's normal practice of affording members of the public the opportunity to comment at monthly board meetings, The authority will be accepting comment during this meeting in one of three ways. First, comment can be sent to hha@myhhanj.com from now until 7:30 p.m. Second, if you are participating in the meeting using a web browser or smart device, you can submit comment using the Q&A function. This function can be accessed by clicking the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. We ask that any member of the public who wishes to submit comment using the Q&A function try to limit themselves to a single submission rather than submitting multiple brief comments. Any comment received by 7:30 p.m., either by email or through the Zoom Q&A function, will be read aloud by an authority representative for all attendees of the meeting to hear. Third, if you are participating by telephone and do not have access to one of the first two methods of comment, beginning at approximately 7:30 p.m., the authority will allow access to participants one at a time using their telephone. Please note that the standard practice of the executive director and members of the board is to refrain from engaging in a back and forth discussion during the public comment portion of authority meeting. However, in light of the ongoing crisis, the authority realizes that it may be necessary to address questions or concerns raised by the public related to COVID-19. Finally, while the authority understands concerns of residents and other members of the public are not limited to COVID-19 related issues, the executive director and members of the board request that those who wish to comment be mindful of one another and attempt to limit public comment to urgent matters facing the authority community. This will help to ensure that all members of the public who wish to speak can do so in a timely manner. On behalf of the authority, we thank you in advance for your patience and understanding. This time, in order to allow more time for members of the public to submit comment in advance of 7:30, I recommend that the board consider adopting a resolution to reorder the agenda to allow the executive director to present his report.
Make a motion to reorder the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
You can have a vote, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt, D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
I think she's on mute.
I was too. Now I'm not.
Did you
Aaron's
say,
here.
Aaron, did you say yes?
Yes.
And Ms. Vega, I don't think we heard your vote, Commissioner.
Yes, I said. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you. Hear you beautifully. Great.
All right, so we reordered the agenda. So are we starting with the executive director's report? No.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. First, let me say that I'm proud. I'm really proud to have witnessed and been a part of the powerful and peaceful demonstration of the people's will last Friday. Hoboken, including many of the Housing Authority residents, our staff, made their voices heard and let it be known to all of Hoboken, to all of Hudson County, to all of New Jersey, all of the country, that Black Lives Matter. I was incredibly proud to be here. I think as we all remember George Floyd, let's keep that as an inspiration. And I think we are certainly going to do that here at the Housing Authority. So we appreciate everyone that participated throughout Hoboken and the country and right now the world. It's amazing what's going on right now. So thank you all. I'd like to welcome Commissioner Vega to our board. Thank you very much for serving with us. Can't wait to work with you. We are going to be having an intro orientation session with Ms. Lourdes and myself and you and Commissioner Smith here in the near future. So we'll be in touch with you on that. I continue to be just incredibly proud of the work that our employers are doing, our workers, like the police, fire, and healthcare workers, our frontline workers. They're out there every day. They've been out there since the beginning of the pandemic. They're making it happen. They're making sure our trash is taken out. They're making sure that things are functioning here at the Housing Authority, and I couldn't be more proud of them. The Resident Services Committee continues to meet twice a week. We've been reviewing our response to the crisis level on all levels. Dave, Andrew, and Erica, thank you for your guidance and support. I do meet with staff 3 times a week at 10 a.m. conference call to deal with COVID issues and all of the issues of the Housing Authority. The Hoboken COVID-19 task force that I've been reporting to you on, that was meeting at 1 o'clock daily, has disbanded for now. Great thanks to the city administration, OEM, schools, health department, transit, Stevens Police Fire. We're all on a call on a regular basis as we got through the first parts of this crisis. Incredibly helpful. It's not that anyone's disappeared, but we're not meeting on a regular basis. We're still in touch quite often. Those help from the community is so appreciated. HUD has made available funds to pay for COVID-19 related emergency work. We have been spending them in the following manner. We have brought on 5 new part-time employees, and we're looking to add 3 more. We expect these workers to be with us at least through the summer, depending on the crisis status. These workers are allowing us to continue to go into our buildings. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, Director, go ahead.
We can hear you.
Okay, I thought somebody had called my name. Okay. We're continuing to go into our buildings on a regular basis. We're looking at our family units 3 times a day, doing all touch points. We're looking at our elderly 4 times a day, doing all touch points, all elevator knobs, banisters, etc. So we're continuing to go in. So those funds are helping to pay for that work. We also have a number of our employees that are putting in overtime for the same mission to make sure we're COVID-19 safe. We've been purchasing PPE supplies for staff. We expect at least 1 major purchase before summer's over on supplies. We're going through our disinfectant pretty quickly. So month before last, we had an approval on about a $22,000 purchase. We'll probably be heading in that direction again over the next month. This month we purchased 2,000 bottles of hand sanitizer and 10,000 masks. They have and or being distributed to all of our residents. I think we've gotten some great feedback on that. I believe that the budget's going to allow for another round of that, probably in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be going out and getting some more hand sanitizers and some masks in order to distribute them to every single resident in the Housing Authority. We have contracted for a second round of disinfecting for all of our buildings. That is taking place right now. They are operating in the elderly and disabled buildings right now, and they are going to go over to the family buildings as soon as the elderlies are done. In addition to the disinfecting procedure in the elderly and disabled buildings, I've also contracted with them to do a cleaning procedure in the stairwells of all of our family buildings. So we're going to be doing a deep steam cleaning in all of our stairways in our family buildings. That will start on Monday, this coming Monday. After that deep cleaning is done, then the disinfecting procedure will take place in those buildings. So that is going to be in process next week. All right. And we do have a resolution for you later in the meeting to approve that action. The city had funded COVID-19 testing for our elderly and disabled sites, as I've been reporting to you, but we have the results in. 220 Jackson was performed on May 5th. 79 tests were completed and 3 residents tested positive, and 1 homemaker that was in the building along with the residents tested positive. Adams testing took place on May 13th with 78 tests, 2 positive tests out of the 78. And Fox Hill took place on May 19th, 104 tests with 0 testing positive for COVID-19. Not bad. Our community rooms have remained closed, except for food drop-off and organization. Food and Supply Organization. We had been using the 411 Marshall Community Room for drop-off and distribution. And I've just got to give a special thanks at our main campus to our resident volunteers, particularly Joe McDonald, Belinda McDonald, Chrissy, our resident employee Nova, who's been out there making sure things get distributed and getting to the right place. We'll talk a little bit more about that procedure when Daniel gets up in the resident services portion here in a minute. The city's elderly food program ended back on June 1st, whereas you know for I think a little over 2 months they were delivering meals 3 days a week, so folks would have meals in our elderly and disabled buildings at the beginning of the crisis. They've gone over to a different model, which Daniel will say a word or two about, on food delivery and pickup rather than delivery at each site. It's a central point delivery, and I think the first phase went on today and it went well. As far as our service providers and partners, all those activities such as the karate program, et cetera, have remained on hold for now. Staffing issues. Our high mark was 9 employees out at one time. We're now down to 4 out for various COVID-19 related reasons. And we've got 1 more employee that's working half-time because of childcare issues regarding COVID-19. A number of our staff are working from home with a few glitches, but overall going well. Sometimes you hear that kid or the dog in the background, and we hope everyone understands. Folks are sometimes working from home in this environment. Sometimes you hear that in the background, and people sometimes call me and say, why do we hear this child in the background? Well, some folks are trying to be as safe as possible. So we have some connectivity, copying and scanning issues, but overall, I think we're being effective with some glitches as well. All our offices are operating and we're covering all of our bases. Of course, we've worked with our staff on best practices. So far, 49 of our staff have been tested. 5 over time since the beginning have tested positive, and all have returned to work, passed their second test, recovered, and 4 more staff are self-quarantining as a result of being high health risks in COVID-19. The offices remain closed, but we're operating by appointment, so we're starting to open up to some, if we can social distance, but by appointment only. We're not operating on a walk-in status yet. Okay. Resident rent issues, late fees have been waived for April, May, and June rent. Management staff has been adjusting rent levels and doing recertification and adjustments for people's income changes over the telephone and catching up either through the mail or another means with verification on rent certifications. So we're being very, very open on that. We do have our drop boxes installed at each location to drop off rents, and we expect that to continue for now. Be a change. We are working on our reopening strategy consciously. Unfortunately, the community rooms will remain closed for now, as well as the playgrounds. We'll open those as soon as the city does. And we are working with this current disinfecting. We're going to be able to, as part of that contract, go in and disinfect all of our playgrounds. Mama Johnson Field will remain closed. There is some action through the governor and Hoboken of having very controlled activities on ball fields with supervision and social distancing. And as the next few weeks go by, we'll be taking a look at a couple of those and seeing what might be safe on our field. But again, we want to make sure anything that goes on just isn't a free-for-all. We still are in the middle of this pandemic. Right? We are looking at and compiling a list of equipment for staff. We're looking at the plastic shields on the desks, some other things that we can get. We'd like to be at least partially open by the end of the month. But again, we're going slow just to be sure. A final word on rent collection. I know some folks want us to go back to the model which we've always had, where we've collected rent here at central office and folks have gotten immediate receipts for that rent. I'm still not comfortable having folks come into our lobby in our central office en masse. And the only other alternative is to allow folks in one or two at a time and have a line outside of the office waiting to pay rent. So I still want to, until we get a little further down the line, make sure that we're being safe. And I know it's kind of tough for some residents, but we are mailing out those receipts and the mail system is working. It's just taking folks a few days to get their receipts after they drop off their rent. The system is very secure and I don't think we've had any problem with losing any payments for rent. So that's kind of our COVID strategy and where we are right now on COVID. Housing for Hoboken met on June 4th. The RFPs for planning consultants, we're really excited about this. We've got 6 good RFPs in for planning consultants to start to move our vision forward on what we're going to be looking at for this main campus, as well as our senior buildings and CCG. We are going to start interviewing those consultants over the next 30 days. Hopefully by the next board meeting, we'll have interviewed all of them. We'll see. But we'll be talking about that more as the month goes by. We're really excited about that. The Housing for Hoboken had its annual meeting, and kept the same officers except for the president, which is Dave Mello now as president. Aaron Lewitt is the vice president.
Director, your voice is going in and out.
Vanessa Falco is the secretary, and Mark Villamar is the treasurer. Is that any better?
Yes, that's much better.
I hope so. Yeah. I probably should get a microphone.
Director, it would help if some of the people that have their put their phone on mute, like Daniel Perez. If you could put your phone on mute, that'd be great.
If everybody doesn't mind, I'm just gonna mute everyone except the director.
Don't mute me. No, don't mute me, Wendy.
Yep, hear you.
All right.
All right. You'll be able to hear us, Phyllis. Our 3 major initiatives are off and running. As you know, this is our long-term plan for how we're going to turn this organization around.
Does director, the sound comes in a little echoey.
No other device. No other
I can't understand. I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
It just got a lot worse all of a sudden.
I wouldn't describe it as echoey. It's like an electronic garble where it's not.
No other microphone. I've had a pair of headphones with microphone, but I don't. Is there any other solution that anyone can propose?
Would you like to dial in? Like you can also call in from the phone and then we can see your face.
I could do that. I just hit a little button on mine. Does this sound any better to anybody?
Yes. What's the button that you pressed?
It was a change in how my computer does the sound.
Gotcha. Okay, good. It's good.
That's for microphone array or same as the system. That help? Okay, if it starts to happen again, please holler at me. So we've got 3 initiatives for our long-term change of the Housing Authority. The first is underway with the Housing Mortgage Finance Agency dollars that we have started construction under. The first part of that is our roofing project to give all of our buildings a roof that is under 5 years old. The roofing work is proceeding at 400 and 320 Marshall. We're about 2 weeks away from completion at 400 and 320 Marshall. 300 and 310 will be next, then we'll be over to CCG. The only hole we have in giving all of our buildings a good solid roof is Harrison. We are looking, talking to the contractor about adding that on and or doing a separate bid for the Harrison roofs, and we expect to have that completed and finished by the end of summer. So we'll have a good solid roofing on all of our buildings by the time next winter hits. As you know, we've experienced roof leaks, flashing leaks, issues from long-term neglect on those roofs. It will save us a ton of money and a ton of maintenance effort once those roofs are completed. We are going to be starting within the next 30 to 60 days backflow prevention work at all of our 7-story buildings and Harrison. These are backflow preventers that will go on the outside of the buildings. So when we do have large Hoboken backups, they're no longer going to come back into our buildings. Pretty big project. Those are going to start within about 60 days. We are going to have some short-term water shutoffs in the buildings while those backflow preventers are being installed. So we're looking for ways right now to do some alternative sources of water for the day while those are shut off, because they're going to be shut off probably for about a day and a half. It'll be like 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, and then another half day. But that's coming, and the long term is going to be great on that because it's going to help backups quite a bit in our buildings. We are going to be starting exterior tuck pointing work on Monroe Gardens this month. We are doing tuck pointing on the chimneys, including a reconditioning with a new cap. This will involve a temporary walkway cover on the back of the building. And we'll have to use about 2 to 4 parking spaces, and we're working with some residents on finding them new parking accommodations while we use their parking spaces for about 30 days while that exterior work is being done. Last but not least, on the Housing Finance Agency money, the elevators are scheduled to be installed at this point, kind of mid-August. For our first elevator installation, with relocation taking place starting in mid-July. We're having continuing meetings with our relocation specialist with a large meeting coming up this week or next week. So we're really excited to be starting it. It's going to be a lot of work. Once the first phase of relocation is complete, which should be at the end of August, when the new elevators start going in, we'll have a much better idea of what the first and second phase of relocation is going to entail. And once we have that perspective, we will know what units we have left over that aren't going to be needed for relocation, because the universal, the national URA, Universal Relocation Act, is very serious about making sure that we have units for anyone that wants to temporarily move while this process goes on. So I know it's frustrating for folks out there. We've got some units that are ready to be moved into, but just for a short time longer, we've got to hang on to them while this elevator work is done and our relocation is done there. It is definitely a short-term pain, long-term gain issue. The elevators must be replaced. We cannot continue to have these elevators break down and have people be stuck in them time after time and time. And as we've discussed many times, the elevator repair budget that we have is just absurd. We are sinking so much money into these elevators that we are going to see a real financial gain on the other side, because we'll probably half our elevator maintenance costs once these elevators are in and operating. So bear with us.
Director, I've got a quick question for you. If you
absolutely.
How many residents are going to be relocated in phase 1?
Well, it depends a little bit. Right now, we're looking at about 70 residents. Okay, but residents can come up to us up to the final day and say, look, we've changed our mind. We would like to be relocated after all. We have sat with, and our consultant company has sat with each and every one of these residents and interviewed them and asked them if, look, if your elevator shut down for 2 or 3 months, can you live in this apartment? Some have said yes, some have said no. Now, once we get really close and we start to do this project, if anyone walks up to us and says, after all, we do want to be relocated because we're on the 4th floor and we thought we could walk up and down, you know, we are going to react to that. We're going to take care of people.
So is that a that's confirmed 70?
Well, not quite confirmed yet, and that's what I'm saying. I'm a little worried.
Excuse me, Mr. Recco.
Yeah, if I'm wrong, help me out.
We have a total of 70 families that are gonna be relocating. In the phase 1, we have 34, and for phase 2, we have 40.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, it seems like on these total vacant units, we have 125, right?
Right.
So you're giving yourself a gap of like 55 residents that come last minute?
Well, there's a couple things with that. One is just before the COVID hit, we got through with our interviews and we started to get the numbers on where the relocation, what we had as relocation folks. So we were being very conservative in this before the COVID hit. And now that we've got the numbers, we're going into phase one, like I said, and we know how many people, when we know how many people move in phase 1, that will start to open up the gates. But yes, we've been very conservative in the last year going into this project because we did not know whether we would have 100 people, 200 people, 70 people, or 50 people. We just did not know that until we were through the interview process. And we still don't know the final number. So we need to make really sure that we have enough units to make this happen.
Are you going, I see on here it has Fox Hill 23 units. Hello?
Okay, yeah, I hear you.
So my concern is, are we going to be putting in like, we potentially could be putting someone who's not a senior in a senior building?
We don't believe we would be doing that. But we do have a lot of seniors that live in our family buildings.
And we're comfortable putting a resident in a senior building during the COVID period where it's our most vulnerable.
Well, we are going to have a testing procedure. We are going to have some safeguards there without a doubt. This is going to be a complicated process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's everything under COVID is hard.
Everything. How soon after phase 1 and phase 2 are we going to then start assigning some of these residents off of our list and into some of these units?
We're going to start before or after phase 1 and phase 2. By the time we have finished relocation for phase 1, we will have a much better picture of what we're going to experience in phase 2. And I think at that point, we can start releasing units.
Do you have a date for that?
I would say, I think we're going to be done with relocation in September, August, September.
And what is do you have the number of how many people are on the list right now waiting for a unit?
You have those numbers with you, Libby?
Which number, Mr. Recco?
How many people are on our waiting list?
On which waiting list?
Public housing, total.
I will give it to you in 1 minute. Give me just 1 second.
How many different waiting lists do we have?
How many what?
Different waiting lists do we have?
We have the Section 8 waiting list, we have a transfer waiting list, and the regular public housing waiting list. Okay. And I'll give you those figures. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, if you could give me the housing included with the transfer, that would give me a good idea of, you know, how many people are really looking for.
On the regular waiting list for public housing, we have 171 applicants. And that is for all bedroom sizes. On the transfer list, for all bedroom sizes, we have 517 applicants.
What is that list? That's transferring from one unit in the house to another unit?
Yes, those are for residents that are already living with us and are trying to be moved to a different unit.
Is that because they're overhoused or underhoused, or just because of the elevator?
Different reasons, can be overhoused, underhoused, medical condition. Some people want to move to the senior buildings.
Approximately how many are overhoused? Approximately how many are overhoused, if you have that?
I will have to give that to you later. I don't have that with me right now. So you want a list of the overhoused and underhoused?
Right, right. Just so we can kind of make sense of that, because if you have 100 people overhoused and we have them waiting, that just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
I just have a question. How many elevators are going to be replaced in the building?
And will you have that count on the top of your head? I don't want to misstate.
This is Harold Fitzpatrick. I can answer that. There are 7 buildings which involve only one elevator. And in each one of those cases, they're in one of the 2 phases that were discussed earlier. There are also 2 other buildings that have 2 elevators, so there's no relocation issue there.
So I guess we're doing a 3 and a 4, phase 1, 3, phase 2, 4.
That's it.
Emil, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was just gonna interject on that. There's only one building that we're doing with 2 elevators, 220 Adams Street. So the first phase is gonna have 4 elevators and the second will have 5 elevators. But the relocation effort is combined for 7 buildings. So 3 buildings are gonna get relocated in the first phase and 4 buildings on the second.
So it's 8 buildings total, not 9.
Correct.
Yeah, there's one building that has 2 elevators.
Which is one of the elderly disabled buildings. And then we'll have refreshed elevators in all of those buildings. Traditionally no, go on.
All these units are that are vacant have all been renovated?
All been what?
Have they all been renovated?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's a major issue in our renovation strategy, is we've got many units that when somebody moves out, just haven't been paid attention to for 20 years. We've got some major structural systematic issues. So as we've gone into these units, we've had to do essentially a gut rehab in our units, many of our units as we've gone into them. We just finished our 42 unit renovation project in anticipation of our relocation project, where we had a contractor come in and completely almost not always gut, but do quite a bit of work in those units. So that's going to give us a real leg up for the future. That's a start with 42 of the units. Many of the other units that we can see on those lists are units that are in terrible condition. For example, we have a number of units on the 9th and 10th floor of Harrison Gardens that, because of the roofing conditions, have seriously had terrible issues. If you'll remember, when I got here, we had units that were literally raining inside of the units because of the condition of the roofs, which is why the Housing Finance Agency money was so important to get, and why it's been so important to replace these systems, because our systems are old. As many of you know, Commissioner Smith has dealt with one issue this past week, where our stacks are splitting, and you've heard me talk about this at meeting after meeting. Our waste stacks in our buildings are old enough that they're drying out from the interior and they're splitting on a regular basis. We've had, I think, 3 of those in the past month, where we've got to go in and open up the walls and replace the stack going down a number of floors. This isn't maintenance.
Yeah,
This
no, I
isn't
get it.
maintenance,
The
right?
buildings, the buildings are old and
Yeah.
they're in bad shape. I get that, but
Yeah. So
how does an individual unit get into such a bad shape? Like, are there inspections each year? Are we holding our residents accountable for destruction to the unit? Like, how does a unit go so long without anybody seeing inside and letting it get to a point where you can't live in it?
Yeah, well, there are inspections every year, and our managers do follow up on people that don't do housekeeping. But when you've got a unit that has not been paid attention to for 20 years, the cabinets are 30 years old, and you don't have the money to replace the cabinets, you're struggling. You're struggling all the time to meet that demand, Andrew. It's the money's not there. The money hasn't been there to do these major repairs. And what we've tried to do over the past 5 years is slowly, instead of doing patch jobs across the board, as we've gone into the units that we have turned, we've done them right. We've ripped out walls. We've done that. Now, what the effect of that is you go slower because you're investing more in each unit. But as you go into the unit, you're doing the new cabinets. You're doing the job that you're supposed to have been doing. I think, I think those of you, and I think Aaron was with us on the units that we've just done, see that they're good quality renovations.
Yeah, no, I walked through them. I saw the units as well with Aaron, and yeah, they're a great job, which leads me to my concern is if a person is relocated to one of these brand new units, right? My concern is that the resident's going to say, wow, this is really nice.
Yeah.
How are we going to deal with that?
That's always an issue in relocation, always. And that's number one, why you're bringing some pros that do this every day. But the agreement with the resident's going to be very clear that this is a temporary relocation and you're going back to your existing apartment. During that process, if there's any way to address transfers that are absolutely needed, we'll certainly pay attention to that. I think Libby and I and the staff have talked about that at length. But overall, this system doesn't work unless people move and then move back so that unit can be available for another family. But it's complicated and it's a struggle. It's going to be a lot of work. We're biting off something large here. We're ready. We're happy. It's needed to be done, and there's no other way to do it.
Hopefully, with the savings from the elevator, we can start accelerating some of that building. And I know I've lived in those apartments, so
Absolutely.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Mark. And I have seen some of the newer renovations, and I've been very impressed. So I do want to commend you on that, and I do agree that you should do the job right and not keep putting Band-Aids on stuff. That's something they've been doing for 40 years in the projects, and that's why you end up with things that are in 30 years of disrepair.
Yeah, and that's my philosophy. Cross, you can ask the staff. If we're going to do it, we're going to try to do it right. Not that we don't make our mistakes, but we're going to do it right. And it's a struggle and it's a hard one. But in the long run, it pays off. In the long run, we are round numbers, elevators, and Emil can jump in if he wants. But round numbers, we're doing $400,000 to $450,000 a year in elevator repairs, right? When we get to the other side of this, that number should go down to about $200,000 a year. That delta, that $200,000 a year, is operating money back in our pocket that we are now pouring down into an elevator well, right? And that's what we have our eye on, is that prize to go through this pain and suffering to get to the other side of that. Same with the roofs. Roof leaks are torture for us and have been torture for us. We get new roofs, it's going to save us dollars. We've got our new boilers going in under the CDBG grant that we worked so hard on. Once we have a new boiler, at least one new boiler in each location, again, the numbers are pretty close. We're $400-some thousand in boiler repairs every year. We should be able to push that number down significantly So we're saving a couple $100,000 a year there. We may well, and that's our goal, my goal, is that a year from now, we can start saying in our budget process, we are going to realize anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 in savings a year. So that can now be put back into our maintenance program and our service to our residents, because that money just isn't there now. It's strangling us.
Well, especially the boilers, Director, correct? Because the boilers, they're extremely inefficient to maintain boilers of that age as opposed to replace them with new boilers, correct?
They're killing, absolutely, they're killing us. They should have been replaced 10 years ago. And they've taken an incredible effort. I got to tell you, the maintenance department and our boiler guys and our boiler contractor, has done a great job. We didn't have one resident go cold over the last 2 years. They've kept those things going. And if you talk about Band-Aids and bubble gum and keeping them running, those guys have been out there making it happen. But that needs to stop. You can't do that forever. You've got to not only replace the equipment, but then you've got to maintain them. We hadn't had a yearly boiler treatment for 15 years here. The boilers are just rusting out from the inside. So, maintenance 101.
Mark, I don't want to cut you off. I just have one more question about the vacancies. So can I assume that a lot of these, because I see a lot of that, the 2017s, those are the ones that concern me, is the turnaround, the 3-year turnaround on an apartment. Sure. Can I assume a lot of those are the top floor apartments that are affected by the roof leaks? And
some of them are. What we try to do there is when we're turning a unit, we do try to evaluate if we've got somebody that needs a 2-bedroom and this 2-bedroom is in better shape than that one, and we don't have the money to turn that one. Let's go into that one. And some of them, we just tend to do that. Let that one sit, because unless we get some other funds, it doesn't make sense.
Right. I was just trying to make sense of that. Sorry.
No, I hate it when I see those numbers. I hate it as much as you do. But we can solve that, and we can solve that on the other side of this.
Right. Exactly.
That will be our next task. Once these renovations are done, our next task will be to fill all those units, and I welcome accountability on that.
Appreciate it.
So that's the Housing Finance Agency project. Our RAD program, we are really close to Fox Hill and closing on Fox Hill over the past 30 days. We've got all of our full approvals in from the HUD office in Washington, D.C. We are set to go. We've got a couple small barriers yet that maybe Mr. Harold might want to say a thing or two about, because they're kind of legalistic barriers. But we did manage to get our interest rate reduced by the bank, which was really good news this week. But Harold, you want to say a thing or two about a couple of our barriers before we can close, hopefully toward the end of August, right, Mr. Harold?
Yes, that would be my anticipation, that time frame. The big one is, as you just said, Mark, we finally got the bank to move down on the interest rate. And now they will come forward with their conditions for the loan to be closed. Those of you who've bought a home know that the bank goes through a lot of pieces of paper, and we'll get hit with a bunch of those. In addition to that, HUD has a 15-page checklist of closing materials that have to be downloaded to their so-called RAD resource desk that ultimately have to be reviewed. Some of that has already been downloaded through the earlier processes. We're now into the stage of doing things like title, survey, and materials that are mainly documents looked at by gnomes like me in a corner. They don't really impact the overall process. Lisa Petrosky at NW and I have talked about her timetable for submission to the local finance board, which we anticipate will occur in terms of filing the materials by the next finance board deadline in July, and receipt at the finance board meeting on the 12th of August. And as she is so happy to point out, the minute that happens, we can close any day after that. The HUD process has a little bit more time to it and is a little less controllable, particularly under COVID. But the goal here is to get this transaction closed in August.
So, it's exciting. Thank you, Harold. We're working hard on that. On our remaining units, our physical needs assessment has been completed. On the remaining units for our RAD program, we have what they call the CHAP is the HUD approval to enter and use the RAD program. And we have a separate approval on each of our amps. There's 5 different ones. We've been talking to the HUD Washington, D.C. office. They would like us to slightly change that and do what they call a portfolio award, which is a kind of an easy change for them, that all of those amps, if you will, go from 5, that includes Fox Hill, we'll have 4 left, into 1 RAD portfolio award for all of our developments. I just want you to know I expect to do that in the coming week. Good change. That way we won't have to be renewing our cycle with the RAD program every 6 months. So we expect to do that in the coming months. Final on the perspective on RAD. Crucial that we're bringing on the planning consultant, because that's going to be our big next step in our RAD program. Once our planning consultant comes on, the real purpose there in short is to get a vision for where we want to go, what we want this main campus to look like, what we want it to look like on the other side, how many units, what should it look like, how should it be laid out, how should it be planned, have community involvement in that process, a lot of community involvement, community leader involvement, resident involvement in that process, to bring somebody on to bring us through that process. Once that process is done, we are then able to put some numbers. What is this going to cost us, right? How are we going to start to finance this thing? How are we going to start to look for those tax credits, and what year can we do the tax credit applications in? And what are those, all of that great stuff that follows there. Exactly what program we're going to use. In the end, we may not wind up being, for some of our units, in the RAD program. We may be in a program they've got called Section 18, which is a Section 8, more like a Section 8 project-based program. But those are yet to be determined, and we'll, with this group and with the whole community, we'll be doing a lot of talking about that as the next months proceed. But my point tonight was that that first step is to get this planning consultant, and that's why I mentioned earlier I was so excited about the Housing for Hoboken. Get them here, get that vision together in the next 6 months so we can really start pushing this forward from here. It's going to be our year. Can't wait.
And Director,
yes.
we're due on the 22nd is when we're meeting again to rank the proposals.
Yeah, to start the process. We're going to be doing interviews with the folks that put in proposals. So I've been talking to them and trying to work out a schedule with them on who wants to go what day. So we're going to start that on the 22nd, we hope.
And today we received, Mark and I, from Greg Byrne, who we spent time with down in Texas, encouraging us to look at Section 18. And Greg is head of the RAD program in Washington, I believe. So I was pretty impressed that
within HUD, he's
never
a high up at HUD, correct?
Yeah. So he has his eye on our, what we got, and he'd like to see it all come down and be rebuilt.
You sure remember Greg visited us last year, and Aaron, I hate to say it, but he's really become an advocate of ours and of what we're doing here. Greg is not a short-term guy; he's a long-term guy. What's this going to look like when you guys get through with your process? And so we'll probably be talking to him this coming week again, and plotting out a strategy for where we go with RAD and or Section 18 and what's appropriate for what. Fair to say he's the guru at HUD on public housing redevelopment, whether it's RAD, Section 18. He's the man.
Just to clarify Commissioner Mello's question about scheduling, the meeting on the 22nd will be a meeting of Housing for Hoboken.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's where we are in all that process, and that's crucial. That's where we're going. Management report, and I know we've been forever on this. We do have the vacancy list, as we've mentioned. We're working to revamp our admissions and continued occupancy policy, and the housing choice voucher admin plan. Those are kind of our Bibles on how we operate. They're old, they're out of date. We have received a first draft, and we're reviewing it with staff. We are expecting to review it with our committees over the coming month, and we're going to be doing a resident review as well. We haven't figured out how we're going to do that yet. It'll probably be one of these types of meetings that we're going to have to work some type of thing, because I really want resident input on our admissions and continued occupancy policy. That's the policy that governs how we admit folks, what preferences are used, how we do transfers, how we operate day to day. So it's an important document, and looking forward to having it revised. So that the first draft is there. We'll be bringing it to the Resident Services Committee to talk about, and we'd hope to do that before the July board. We will do that for the July board meeting. It'll probably be a couple more months until we actually get it in front of the board, because we do have a community process and a vetting, a revision process to go through here.
Now, Director, let me interject with a question or two there. Isn't that something that we could have a meeting that amounts to a committee of the whole meeting just to discuss that issue?
Oh, we can.
All of the commissioners can give their input before it's a finalized document to approve or disapprove of?
Oh boy, we sure could. And I think just a separate meeting focusing on the, we call it the ACOP, right? Rolls off my tongue.
I'm sorry,
Admissions
what do you
Continued
call it?
Occupancy Policy. ACOP, right?
ACOP.
Yeah, or the ACOP. So it rolls off our tongue often, because admissions and continued occupancy policy is a mouthful. So yes, Chairman, I think a whole separate special meeting, once we get to that point, to really go over it in detail, I think would be fantastic.
And it would need to be a special meeting subject to sunshine law procedures.
Yeah,
because if we have more than 3 commissioners, that trips the need to follow sunshine law.
Right, that was going to be my question. So it works just like when I was on the city council, where we could have a meeting. It's just once you had a committee of the whole meeting, it had to all those rules applied, where it had to be advertised, and it had to be, you had to have a public comment portion at some point. But as long
And
as
it would have to be open to the public unless there was a specific purpose to close part of it.
Right, of course. But we can have an extra meeting for that purpose, though, correct? As long as we
Very much so. Anytime you want to schedule it, can be done.
All right, great.
Councilor Harold, what is it going to take to schedule that? Is that going to take a vote at one of these meetings to schedule that meeting?
Well, technically, if the chair were to call it, it could be done. The real scheduling issue is that you essentially need 2 weeks, because you need to craft a specific notice stating the purpose. You need to publish that notice and have the meeting at some point after the publication.
Yeah,
usually, to be safe, requires 2 weeks.
The way we used to do it on the council, and please, Howard, let me know if it's different, is just the council president would call it, and of course they would have the professional courtesy of trying to pick a date that was amenable to everybody on the council, but it wasn't anything that required a vote.
No, so, that's what I said. The president, the chair of the authority can call the meeting. As you say, the real nicety is to make sure that everybody would be available. But by the time you move that process from the day that you started until the meeting is held, you probably should give yourself 2 weeks.
Okay, good. And then, I know we discussed this before the meeting got started. We're going to be able to do these via Zoom throughout the summer without any legal problem, correct?
Well, you can't be certain that things might not change and raise an issue about whether or not the procedures we're using for public involvement will remain in place.
Well,
but as long as the current status of the governor's orders remains. And he issued another one this week, which applies. We very much can continue to use this method that we're using now, and I would expect that it certainly will be true for July, probably August. I can't say September.
Okay, when he issues those orders, though, isn't there a time frame? I mean, they can't be changed overnight. Isn't there like amount of notice that has to be given before they can be changed again?
No.
There's not. Okay.
The other way around, it's got a deadline when it expires, and he's been extending them. But if he wanted to, he could accelerate.
But he can't, once the deadline is established, he can't terminate it early. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yes, he could. If the world turned on its head tomorrow and he wanted to say, I'm no longer issuing any orders, they're all lifted, he could.
Okay. All right, I didn't realize that. Thank you.
I don't expect that to happen, but it's theoretically possible.
Neither do I. All right, thank you.
I would just like to add that we ought to be talking about that maybe sometime in July. And I think we ought to do it. So, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, so this is a good time to do it, that certainly I would think that we're going to have the July meeting in exactly the same method. And particularly for the new commissioners, the meeting of the authority is ordinarily on the second Thursday at 7 p.m. But because of various scheduling issues, not the least of which is July 4th weekend, the annual meeting notice of the authority reflects that the July meeting is on the third Thursday, the 16th at 7 p.m.
Thank you for that, Counselor. Going out with the management report, if we're past that. Our Housing Choice Voucher annual inspections have been delayed. We have issued 20 new vouchers out onto the street to individual Housing Choice Voucher applicants off of our waiting list. They are now going to be heading out to find themselves an apartment. This will hopefully get some more folks housed here in Hoboken, particularly in light that our vouchers should be much more attractive now. We did have the ability to have a rent increase that we were given through what's called a small area FMR. So we're able to increase our rents for Hoboken. We received that increase back in March, right when COVID hit. So kind of, hey, same old story. I know it's June now. We finally developed our procedures, so we felt we could safely issue some new vouchers. We have issued those vouchers this past week, and Libby will be doing her process of interviewing those folks, certifying them, and as they find places to live, doing the on-site housing quality inspections. So looking forward to that. Maintenance has been really laser focused on disinfecting, addressing emergency work orders as they come in. We have had a number of sewer stack issues over the past month that have been difficult. Capital improvements, the sewer line repair project remains on hold at Adams. If you remember, before the pandemic hit, we were ready to start a sewer line project at Adams, which is going to rip up the lobby for a number of weeks. And we made the decision back then to put that project on hold because the last thing we need right now is the lobby floor completely ripped up in order to put new sewer lines down in there. Hate to say that, we do need it, but now's not the time, unfortunately. My staff is over there every single day routing out those lines so we don't have backups, because those lines are essentially worthless right now. They're busted. So we have to route those lines out every day. We'd love to have this done, but I'm still not comfortable having construction workers in an elderly disabled building until we get a little further down the road. We do have the repair of parking lot gates under design over at Fox Hill. Generator 220 Adams that will be going in this year is under design. We did finish the 42 units of severely distressed vacant units. By the way, on those, when we brought the contractor in, we did give him the worst units we had, so that's going to give us a leg up for the future. We are moving forward with replacing 7 compactors at various sites. Those are under design. Our audit has been delayed for this year due to the COVID-19 issues. Our software RFP is out for bid. I can't tell you how excited I am that we finally have reserved the money, and we're holding firm to reserving the money for a new software system at the Hoboken Housing Authority. Our current software system is awful. It's hard to get information out. It's clunky. It doesn't integrate with our financial systems. It's just awful. One of the worst systems I've seen. As you know, the last couple years, we didn't have the money in capital fund to actually make this happen. It's reserved. We think we've got some really good bids coming in. We've been on the phone with software providers, and we'll be, as soon as those bids come in, I think in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to start interviewing those folks. And last but not least in my report, and I know this has been a long one, but we're going to finish off with Mr. Daniel saying a thing or two because it has been so crucial to us on what we've done in resident services. I'm very proud of our resident services staff. Thanks, Daniel, the volunteer partners that have done, and I'll let Daniel do a very quick run through on what's coming up over the next couple months. Daniel?
Hello, Mr. Recco. Hello, everyone. I won't be able to join you via video. Hopefully my lovely voice will be more than enough to soothe everyone's hearts. I want to focus on 3 resident services efforts. The Hoboken Food Pantry, as Mr. Recco had mentioned, moved from an emergency model to a regular food pantry model beginning June 1st. Now their process is registration. They will be doing a food distribution to all HHA families twice a month. There are pickup locations on our property at the courtyard for Andrew Jackson residents, Harrison Garden residents, and as well as 221 Jackson Street residents. There will be one time a month when the Hoboken Food Pantry will be making special deliveries door to door to residents living at our senior facilities or senior buildings. Additionally, the food pantry is still taking in applications for anyone who has not registered yet. I spoke to Tony this morning, and she mentioned that so far we had 300 families that have registered for the food pantry program. And of course, they can continue to register till June 23rd. The other thing that I would like to highlight is the meals or luncheon for our senior and disabled families at HHA. Thanks to the efforts and donations of many Hoboken residents through the efforts of Commissioner Impostado and Councilman Ruben Ramos and others, all seniors have been receiving or have received a one-time lunch from any number of different restaurants in the city of Hoboken donated through the efforts of the commissioner mentioned. And of course, these luncheons are going to all of our senior buildings. And these were one-time donations, of course. Today, we deliver to resident, senior, and disabled residents of Andrew Jackson North. And the 18th, we will be delivering to residents of Harrison Gardens. So these are one-time donations that are provided with the support of the commissioners and of course the donation of any number of residents living in the city of Hoboken that want to donate to provide a one-time lunch to seniors and disabled residents of the Hoboken Housing Authority. All of our senior buildings have been provided. Christopher Columbus, the only location that will be provided with lunch, one-time lunch donation, will be Harrison Gardens, and that will be next week. And lastly, the Hoboken Housing Authority purchased sanitizers and masks. We started Monday with the team to deliver them to every unit at the Hoboken Housing Authority. I can say that many residents are extremely appreciative that the Housing Authority has been providing them with masks and sanitizers, so they're very thankful for that. We are excited, of course, to be continually providing support services and resources to our residents, especially during this crisis. And we'll continue to work with the director, the staff, the commissioners, and of course, community partners to continually meet the needs of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. I would like to say quickly, thank you to Commissioner Pistado again for kind of finding the source and supply for the hand sanitizers. We're ready for another purchase. So if anyone out there knows of ways, we're looking for the best prices out there on masks and hand sanitizer, we can go out and make another fairly large bulk purchase very soon, anytime basically, because we want to be able to continue that and getting appropriate PPE to our residents and of course our staff. And I don't think that Commissioner Seitzman has really been recognized for as much volunteer work, Erica, that you and a crew of yours has been doing on making sure things get delivered as well. So thank you for that. And I think having said that, that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to go to the public portion, correct, Counselor?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, so I guess I'll start with I saw that Barbara Reyes had entered a comment in the Q&A section, so I guess I'll start with reading that. Or no, actually, I should ask Wendy if anybody is queued up on the phone.
Well, I believe, Mr. Chair, that unless I'm mistaken, Ms. Reyes is actually still with us electronically. If she would prefer to give her comment that way, I leave that up to you, whether you want to do that as opposed
Matt,
to
your audio is all cracking up. Matt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounding like I used to.
Any better?
There's just a loud noise with it.
Okay. Well, you may want to give Ms. Reyes the opportunity to give her comment directly as opposed to reading it, because I see she is still with us electronically.
I think that would be great. Ms. Reyes, are you queued up to speak? And Wendy, can you open her line or unmute her?
Yep. She should be able to, we should be able to hear her now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Barbara, how are you?
Hi, guys, how are you?
I hear you great, so I figured you'd rather speak your comments than have me read them.
Thank you, Mr. Mello. I just wanted, first of all, to thank the director as well as the commissioners that participated in the Black Lives Matter protest this past Friday. My children are African American, so this is something that's dear to my heart. And, you know, it's really nice to see that you guys actually support us and understand what they're going through, because what's happening today is going to affect them in the future. So I wanted to thank you guys all for all that participated. Thank you. I also want to take the time to say congratulations to Ms. Vega, and also now that she's on the Board of Commissioners, you know, I know you from town, don't know you very well, but I am very involved with the Housing Authority, and I really look forward to kind of working with all of you guys. I am very vocal. I do have a lot of residents that come to me and with concerns, because some of them are afraid to kind of speak up. So usually I'm that voice that tries to help them. So as always, I'm always willing to work with everybody and anybody. So welcome aboard. And my last thing is, I know that this past month, Mr. Recco and the rest of the commissioners, there was an incident in Harrison Garden with the hanging out. This, as I stated in my emails, is a quality of life issue for me. I have, you know, 3 children. I'm homeschooling. I'm working a full-time job. It's hard. I must say that although after various emails going back and forth with the police department, I am very happy to inform you guys that the police department has been on top of this since that email. And they actually have also, to be honest with you, I haven't had any issues. At a certain time, the courtyard for the most part has been emptied out. There hasn't been much hanging out, much music. There are some things that are going on and that sometimes we see on social media and so forth. And, you know, I feel that sometimes, you know, I do my best to work with the police department. I hope that you guys understand where I was coming from. I live here. I go through these issues. I'm not the only one that's going through these issues. I'm probably the most vocal one about it. But I just wanted you guys to have an update as far as to what is going on. That yes, we went back and forth, but the Hoboken Police Department, Mr. Smith, I know you were back and forth also with the emails. They did help with working out, and lately the courtyard has not been an issue. Mr. Recco, my last thing that I wanted to say to you, and I know this, I didn't put this in my comment, was I know that we had discussed, you had thought about maybe locking the gates on the side to prevent people from coming in. I thought it was a great idea, but now that I'm thinking about it, we're having so many issues with the doors not being able to lock. I think that doing the gates is kind of going to be the same issue. Maybe, you know, think about something else for now the last thing I would want to happen basically is you lock those gates and it'd be a waste of money because they're going to break them, or they're just going to, you know, find another way into the courtyard. So I'm thinking that way, maybe, you know, we can think of some other ways to eliminate the hanging out that goes on. And I must say, it's not the residents, it's usually non-residents that are.
That's right.
So that's why
maybe we can get together and hang out a little bit there and talk.
Sure, absolutely.
Got some ideas, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Reyes. And I was listening to you, but I had to check. I don't know if you guys could see, there was an amazing rainbow in the sky, so I had to check it out, or my kids would have killed me. There you go.
Yeah, we see it.
See, if you got your religious classes, it kind of went with what Barbara was saying, you know, the rainbow after the storm. So, yeah, thank you for your comments, Barbara, and yeah, thank you for the commissioners who were able to attend the rally. Turned 50, so I didn't feel safe around all the protesters without oxygen. But the younger people were out there in droves, and I thought it was pretty wonderful, pretty amazing. So Hoboken really turned out. That was great. Is there anybody else queued up, Wendy, for comments?
Not from the email. Lourdes and Daniel say not from the email, and I can I can open a few people to speak because I couldn't see them like raise their hands or something. So I'm just gonna open a few people communication. And if anybody has a question or comments.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes, we can hear you. Hi.
My name is Pat Waiters, and I've been on mute for a while. Oh, thank you for
accepting. We can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you. I don't have no volume button that I could turn it down, unfortunately.
Pat, can you talk slower, please? Pat, this is Phyllis. Can you slow down?
Oh, hi, Phyllis.
Hi, just talk slower.
I talk slower like at the freeholders. All right, Phyllis. I would like to say congratulations to Lizette. Miss Vega, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Pat.
Congratulations. My name is Pat Waiters. I'm here for you. I want you to know that. For 20 years, I've been trying to get a seat on that board, Lizette. I haven't given up faith. I haven't given up on the housing authority, and I definitely didn't give up on Mrs. Reyes. I'm very impressed, and I hope she continue to be that loud voice and continue to she have a decent place to live like everybody else. Lizette, I'm here for you always, okay? Because like I said, my whole mission too is exactly what you want. I'm glad that you are on board to help people that looks like me, of color, that's been mistreated so long in the housing authority. I have a lot of things I want to go over with you, so I will be emailing you on that. And welcome aboard. And you need anything, like I told you, I'm here to work with you, okay? I don't know who Mr. Smith is, but, you know, I know his pick was through the mayor. And normally I know how the political games are played with those seats. I'm not impressed, and I'm not the one. I'm about business. So I would like to meet him too on a second note, because see, it's not about being a puppet for nobody. It's about those residents and policies down in the housing authority. Okay, so I wanted to make myself clear on that tonight.
Pat, if you know anything about me, you know the last thing I am is a puppet. So you might want to, I've lived in a project for 30 years, so you might want to go ask around and they'll tell you I'm anything but a puppet.
That's great to hear, Mr. Smith, but also I want you to be realist. A realist is if you lived in this town just as long as I am, I'm glad you did live in the project, you know this town is very political, and that's how the seats get picked. So I'm gonna start putting that on the record. Because when people ignore stuff and act like it don't exist, they just as guilty of the issue. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm welcoming you aboard too, to let you know I'm Pat Waiters, and I've been working. I'm not physically sitting in the seat because unfortunately I was discriminated against in getting the seat. So good luck that you did get the seat, and that's what I'm saying. I will work with you. But it's people that live in housing that I've been helping for over 22 years, okay? And they knew, they've been saying, we want to see Pat Waiters in the seat. So I keep it real with them and let them know how the seat is picked. I don't have to be Robbie's friend. I don't have to be nobody's friend in this town. And thank God we got eyes and ears all around the world watching to make sure it's no more racial discrimination, no more biasness. We're not having it, okay? That's what I'm saying. I'm not accusing you of anything. I do talk a little fast, but you can understand where I'm coming from. I'm putting it out there like it is. Because it's a disgrace that I'm not in one of those chairs. And it don't have nothing to do with qualification. I'm more than qualified. And Mr. Recco will tell you many a times I got crates and crates of paperwork showing you what I do. It's about the people and it's about the policies in that housing authority.
Pat, I voted for you for school board in the past, just so you know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm your friend now.
So I know who you are and I know what you're about. So I just give you that, I'll give you the opportunity to learn what I'm about. And hopefully we can sit down one day and talk.
Please get in touch with me. I'll be emailing you too, okay? Thank you guys, and thanks for and Barbara, please reach out to me, Barbara, because I got a lot of things. I'm trying to set up something for the summer. You know, they opening the pool back up too in the high school. So I'm gonna be trying to reach out to you guys with respect to trying to find something for these children so they won't be hanging out at 9, 10, and 12, 1, and 2 in the morning. Thank you guys, and thank you for your time. And I love you, Lizette.
All right, thank you, Pat. Thank you for all your comments. And Pat, as a former city councilman, I can tell you sometimes you get more attention paid to you when you have everybody's number than when you're actually on the board with the people. So I think you got that covered. All right, is there anybody else queued up? Wendy?
Okay, there's, let's see, a 115600 phone number ending with that.
Okay.
Annette Chaparro.
Oh,
Richard.
that's Assemblywoman Chaparro?
Yes, there's Annette Chaparro here and Richard Fox. So.
Okay, so if we could hear from the Assemblywoman, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. They all should be able to talk.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
I was just listening, but you called me out, so I want to say hello.
We can see your name.
So while I'm on, I just want to, of course.
Thank you for listening. It's always appreciated.
And Mel, I did get your call. I just didn't get a chance to call you back, but I did get your message.
That's all right.
But listen, I want to just piggyback off what Barbara said about the protest. I thought it was beautiful. It sent a real clear message. People of color in Hoboken, we marched together to the park, Maxwell, and that's where it should have started, but that's where we started it, and we marched peacefully. It was beautiful, and I was very happy for the turnout. That was one. I want to welcome the two commissioners, Lisette and Lamont. Welcome. I'm sure you guys are going to do your best. Mr. Recco, I would love to catch up with you on many topics. I've been down to Housing Authority with many others. Everyone has been great working together. I know that these are hard times and uncertain times, and people have a lot of questions, and people are frustrated, and the more time that passes, more frustration. So we do have to work together, everyone, and really help each other out, because it is important, and we want to make sure that people get what they need, and realistically that we come together to just get over this hump. It's trying times. So I want to just say that you guys are all doing a great job with what you have to work with, and I want to make sure that I help you as much as I can on a state level and as a resident. So thank you for having me. Phyllis, is so nice to see you. I miss you, Phyllis.
I miss
and
you
of course,
too.
and of course, I want to work with Pat Waiters. So if Pat Waiters is still on, I want to make sure that she knows I want to work with her too.
See?
I'm no puppet.
Thank you for confirming what I said, Annette, right? She really quicker.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Have a good night.
Thank you, Assemblywoman.
Thank you,
All right,
Assemblywoman.
and then the last person, are they two just listening, or are they somebody who wants to speak, Wendy?
They could speak freely if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we
I
just
think
hear silent,
Mr.
then
Fox is probably just listening. Am I
yeah.
correct, Mr. Fox?
Yeah, I'm just here in support of the board and the director and the From PHA program if any technical matters come up. But I will say, I am thrilled that you got this money and that the program's actually proceeding, and we're seeing elevators go in and the roofing work. It was a twinkle in the eye, and to now see it actually take hold, and knowing that your elevator budget will be coming down from, it was at one point almost 600,000, probably to less than 200,000, and that your boilers won't have to be on trailers. It is just thrilling. And so it's a testimony to the complete team that Mr. Recco and the board has put together to bring this together, and Fitzpatrick Council, a wonderful job with the closing to the team on that.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Richard. We wouldn't have been there without you, so thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess that we're ready to move on to reports of the committees. Commissioner Pistato, could you just give us a brief overview of some of the highlights of things that we've been talking about in the running resident services committee meetings that we've been having since this COVID crisis began?
Sure. We've done from last meeting, just to update you on what we've done. We've really worked hard with the senior task force to really make sure that our vulnerable and our vulnerable residents are taken care of. So that, has really been impactful from the Housing Authority Commissioner's standpoint, that we were able to work with this group and make sure that our vulnerable are fed, that they're staying inside as much as possible. They have food, they have hand sanitizer, they have cleaning wipes, they have materials. And then it kind of took a step further where we've been discussing all safety measures of when we can start opening up fields, when we can start trying to engage our youth as much as possible in a safe manner with some of our nonprofit organizations that we work with. Maybe Erica could fill in anything I'm missing here, but it's been very, very helpful for my standpoint, getting on a call every Tuesday and Thursday to really discuss what our residents are going through, for our director to be able to bounce things off of us, so we can offer insight and try to just make sure any problems any fires are being put out, and before they kind of get to a point where they're unmanageable. If Erica wants and yourself want to add anything.
I'm sorry, I was muted. No, I think that was a good overview. Commissioner Seitzman, do you have anything you want to add, or did he pretty much cover it? All right.
You're muted, Erica. Yeah.
Okay, so we will move on now to, and just a word on the committees. So I'm going to speak to Commissioner Vega. We talked very briefly today that I want to just run by her some ideas I've had of the committee setup, but it's pretty much done, and I might make some tweaks after her and I speak. And then I'm also going to set up an additional committee, whether it has to be ad hoc or just can be an additional committee, where we're going to focus just on the list, because new Commissioner Smith has had some good questions about that I think we've all had, and continually get asked by the residents about the list and how they work. And I'm sure, having grown up in the Housing Authority, you got those calls immediately, so that they take a little while to find the rest of us. But I think it's a good thing to have a committee just around that, so we can educate ourselves, and that Director Recco won't have to get the same questions from different commissioners, it might be good just to have a committee that really gets a deep understanding of everything that affects that list, whether it be somebody who's facing a non-safe home that they have to be removed from or anything else.
Chairman, can I just say one more thing about the resident services?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I just want to commend the amazing work that Daniel is doing. None of this is, and his team of volunteers who at some point in the near future, when this is all said and done and we can have people in person, I think deserve some type of formal recognition for our resident volunteers who, you know, they're risking their health to hand out food, to hand out supplies, as well as Daniel. I mean, no one signs up for this. I know Daniel gets paid, but he's gone above and beyond in a way that's remarkable. And down the road, I really hope that we can come together and formally recognize those individuals. So I just wanted to say that.
I agree 100%. I think we've even discussed that in meetings that's absolutely appropriate, and we'll definitely recognize them, even if they wear a Boston Red Sox jacket like Emil's rocking tonight. Not good form, Emil. All right, so let's move on. But yeah, no, your words are very appropriate. You know, it's not in Daniel's job description to do everything he's had to deal with in this, you know, historic event. So he's been doing an amazing job, as have his volunteers that he has been working with. All right, so next, I guess we're ready to move on to resolutions. So reading and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting is resolution number 2020-06.01. Resolution to approve the minutes for May 14th, 2020 reorganizational board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Who said second?
Commissioner
I'm
Lewitt.
sorry. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Phyllis, you've been told who seconded it? All right.
Yes.
If any questions, or can we go right to the vote? All right, if we could have the vote, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
and L. Vega.
Should I abstain since I wasn't here for that meeting?
Yes, that would be totally appropriate, Commissioner.
I abstain.
All right, so next resolution is a similar one, resolution number 2020-06.2, a resolution to approve the minutes for May 14th, 2020 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a
Second. Second.
So I think that was Commissioner Foreman with the motion and Commissioner Seitzman with the second. All right, any questions or discussion? If we could have a vote, please, Director.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
He's on mute.
Yes.
All right. D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
All right, resolution number 2020-06.03, resolution authorizing the payment of the monthly list of bills for the Hoboken Housing Authority. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Phyllis, do you know who those were?
I think it was Erica and Javi, right?
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
All right. Maybe we can, guys, maybe we can keep that going tonight just for Phyllis's sake. All right, do I have any questions or discussion about the list of bills for this month?
Chairman, I just have one question.
Go ahead.
Emil, if you could just, I know we talked about the expenses incurred for our fleet of trucks, but if you can, I see on here, Jack's Towing, number 10, for monthly maintenance expenses, $2,100. Is there a way that you can, I know you sent the fleet of trucks and the expenses for each one, but as you have a list of bills and there's work being done, is there a way to just comment or, you know, identify which truck that is for as we go forward here?
Sure, that's no problem. I can add that in.
So for example, like which one is this one for?
I believe it's for a 2003 Ford F-350, but I could be wrong on that. But that is one of our older vehicles. It used to be serviced as a garbage truck, so it was in need of some work. But I could get you that list moving forward.
Perfect. Yeah, if you could just mark it on the actual bill, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. If we could get a vote, please, Director.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
All right. So we are up to resolution 2020-06.04, resolution to ratify the June 3rd, 2020 award of an emergency contract for cleaning and disinfectant fogging to respond to COVID-19 pandemic. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so that was Seitzman and Foreman. Phyllis?
Yes.
All right, and I think I'll comment on this. So when COVID happened, we started having the Resident Services Committee. Commissioner Impastato was good enough to start inviting some outside leaders into it. There was a suggestion made, I believe it was by Councilman Ramos, to maybe contact an outside cleaning service. That he was confident that the city might find funding for that, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And you know, we ended up getting this deep cleaning that went above and beyond what our staff had the time and the bandwidth to perform. And that was that's being, now this round is being paid for by our budget. We have to vote on it, but it was done on an emergency basis, so it's already gotten underway. Am I correct, Executive Director? And
Yes, that's essentially correct. Only with the modification that the first round was just a disinfectant. They did no deep cleaning, and this round has a deep cleaning involved.
Right, and the first round was geared toward our senior buildings only?
No, it was done everywhere.
It was done everywhere, but we started with our senior buildings, okay.
And that deep cleaning that they're going to be doing, it's only the stairways? They're not going to do the elevators? They're not going to do the landings, lobbies?
Oh, they'll be doing the landings and the hallways as well. Yes, sir.
Chairman,
basically all common areas, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'll make a note that they're not going to go into the community rooms and do that type of cleaning in the community. They'll be doing the disinfecting in the offices and the community rooms. Right. But where we really want to focus our effort at are those long-term issues we've had in those stairwells. That's number one. We want those stairwells to be clean when we get to the other side of that. If you tour our hallways right now, they're not bad. They're not bad. It's those stairways that give us the real headaches.
Okay. I do want to put on the record, though, that we want to temper our expectations, because I'm sure it will get the stairwells much cleaner than they've been, but there's a difference between dirty and deteriorated materials that can't be cleaned. You know, some of the stuff that people are seeing is deterioration, where it's materials that just have to be replaced. And if your bumper was rusting out on your vehicle, it could wax and wash it all day long, and you eventually have to replace the thing. So that's what we're dealing with some of that stuff. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Chairman, I have a couple questions, comments.
Sure.
Director, out of the $100,000 for this resolution, how much is it for the disinfectant and how much is it for the cleaning?
It's approximately half and half.
So my concern here, my major concern is the company that's doing this has been doing a lot of the disinfecting around the city. The city of Hoboken is paying a couple $100,000 to have their buildings cleaned next week. They've done our buildings, and they've done a good job disinfecting. It doesn't really require a lot. It's, you know, you get the material, you pump it into a machine that spits it out. When it comes to the deep cleaning, or the spray or the steam, they don't have a lot of experience with it. They're not really a commercial industrial cleaner. They're really known to be a mom and pop shop. And my concern here is that I think we should be going out and trying to get this bid on, so that potentially we could see exactly if the cost too high. I personally think that doing the research I've done, $50,000 is a lot for this type of work. And we've already experienced, just so my colleagues understand, we've already seen that the company had problems with their machine. The machine broke. They had a restart, and they have to wait for parts to come in. So we're starting to see that, like, they really don't have a lot of experience in doing this. And what they're trying to do, it seems, is they're trying to not take advantage, but they're using their relationship being in Hoboken as a way to get a lot of these contracts. And I'm not saying they're not doing a great job. I just think that we can at least, at the very least, take the opportunity, whether it's a couple weeks, to go out to bid and see exactly what RFP requests come back and what bids come back, what companies are out there, what the cost could potentially be substantially less. Just to jump in here, I know it's an emergency solution, resolution, but I think if we potentially, what we could do is, and I'm not sure if legal can jump in, but we could split these into two. We can vote on the disinfectant, which I think is a no-brainer, and then maybe hold off on the cleaning part, just to see. Let's get a couple of companies in and let's see what their pricing is, and let's see what their expertise is in doing these things, just so we're sure that spending $50,000 is the right move. I'm very suspect that that's the low price that we can get, and the most efficient, productive service for that amount of money. As well, I know you all know this, but we have a very tight budget. We're strapped for cash, and I don't think it's an emergency right now to get these buildings cleaned. We've got a long time with these stairwells being a mess. I think we can wait another couple weeks just to see what other companies have to offer and at what price.
I don't agree with everything you said, but I do agree that on the next round, and what we're trying to do here is to do a cleaning every 30 days, or as close to 30 days as we can get, a cleaning and disinfecting of our buildings every 30 days, thoroughly cleaning and disinfecting. And we had talked about this, Commissioner Passato, earlier in the week, and Emil and I sat down and started hatching out a plot for our bidding process for the next round of cleaning and disinfecting. What this represents, what I'm asking you to approve tonight, is that I did enter into an agreement with this organization, with this company already. They are already contracted, and what we're asking for tonight is a resolution to ratify that contract.
Well, let me make a couple of legal comments, if I may. With respect to Commissioner Impastato's question about bidding, we can indeed bid this. This emergency procedure exists long before COVID came along, and it provides that the authority, if it determines through the executive director that it can't wait for the bidding process, it can move forward and, as the executive director says, sign a contract and have the work performed, and later on come back to the board and have it ratified. In the infinite wisdom of the legislature, the question you might ask yourself is, what if the board won't ratify it? The answer is the contract has already been signed. Now, the things I don't know are, one, whether or not we took any other numbers from anybody else in evaluating this emergency. Two, how much of the work has already been done? And 3, from a practical financial standpoint, how much of this would be covered by special HUD funding, which if not used, would not necessarily be anything we could use for any other purpose. I'm not saying that to infer that we would overspend, but the part that Commissioner Pistato's getting at is going forward. And the question there is, will there be more work? Can we get more HUD funding? And to the extent there is more work, would it be appropriate to take actual bids? I'll point out to you, actual bids in an emergency are the reason why they do emergencies, because of it adds at least 6 weeks. Somebody's got to put the bid package together. You have to put it out. If we scrambled right now, we might get a result just before the July meeting because it's 5 weeks. I don't know how much of this work's been done. To the extent it's been done, there's no way you can pull that iron out of the fire. To the extent that it hasn't been done, it may be possible to terminate the contract early.
Yeah, Director, can you answer number 1 and number 2 of Harold's questions?
If I can keep track of number 1 and number 2.
Number 1 was how many companies did you talk to?
Oh.
And number 2 was how much work has been done for both the cleaning and the disinfecting?
Sure. We talked to no other companies. I view this as a true emergency. I mean, in the true meaning of the word. When the city paid for the disinfecting on the last round, one of the things that hampered the disinfecting process was the dirt in the stairwells particularly. We were confident that we completely disinfected everywhere, but a complete disinfectant over a dirty stairway is not as effective. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. It was crucial that we got in there as fast as we could and get rid of that dirt so that on the next disinfecting, we'd do even a better job. Excuse me, I think our numbers within Hoboken on how we've controlled the pandemic within our developments are incredibly good, but they could be even better. And my goal is to make sure that we have done every possible thing we can not to spread this. And the idea of delaying that process so we can get other bids at that point over the past 45 days since the city paid for those, to do specs, to get your head around that. I think there's a possibility that we could do, I have to refer to the attorney, but if we could do some short circuit bidding process, because as Harold says, our regular bidding process takes 6 to 8 weeks, and we can't wait 6 to 8 weeks and have the COVID-19 virus come back into our hallways. We got rid of it 30 days ago, so let's move. Back to the specific question, we have gone through Adams and Monroe on a disinfecting process, and we are going to be moving toward Fox Hill over the next few days. And we are going to be doing some hallways as well. But
how much of the cleaning have you done?
We don't want to delay this. We want to move this with all due speed. I think they did an excellent job on the first round around with the city. And I think they're going to do a very good job on this as well. Of course, time will tell. But even to go through a first pass with a good steam cleaning on these stairways, I think is worth pushing this, so we do at least a preliminary cleaning on all of our stairwells, hallways, before it's disinfected the next time. Again, in my judgment, that this was something that needed to be done immediately. We couldn't sit around for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And
just so I understand it, the emergency resolution allows you to go and select a company without the bidding process, right?
Well, the emergency resolution is a ratifying process, Commissioner. The executive director, using the emergency procedures that have existed for many years in the local public contracts law, has already awarded the contract.
No, so here's my question. Director Recchio wants to clean the buildings, right? It's an emergency to get it done. Can he go and call 3 or 4 companies and say, hey, how much is it to clean this? Can he do that?
Yes.
Of course.
But it has to qualify as an emergency. That is the reason why the resolution is before you tonight. In effect, what you're doing is agreeing that it was an emergency.
I understand that. My point is how we got here. How did Made in Hoboken get selected, and the price, how do we know that that price is not out of this world and another company could do it for $15,000?
Yeah.
Well,
I think,
Well,
real quick, can I jump in?
Yeah, that was my judgment.
If I could
I think it's
interject,
clear.
I think
Don't they have to be an approved vendor as well? Or is that a school thing?
That's a school thing.
when you're dealing with an emergency situation, the fact is we had already had this vendor in for something that came out of OEM money from the city. And we already had a relationship with them. So,
the disinfectant.
In life, when you're dealing with an emergent situation, I don't typically do a ton of price shopping when I'm dealing with an emergency. I go to somebody I've already dealt with who I can trust, and I know I'm not going to get burnt on them doing something quickly.
I agree. I agree with the disinfecting part. But for the cleaning part, we can go out now and we can talk to a couple different companies. It seems like that portion has not been done yet this week.
But they're related. You got to clean before you disinfect. So if we were to do that, number one, we would be having to go back and renege on his contract and change his contract with the legal ramifications of that. Number two, you're delaying the entire process if you don't clean and then disinfect. Clearly, in my judgment, and I've been around construction and maintenance costs for a long time, this is a fair price for the work that they are doing. Because there's a lot of work out there. I made that judgment and I entered into the contract with them to do this service.
So you're comfortable and confident that in a month from now, if we have a company or 2 or 3 companies bid on this and they come back significantly lower, you're going to be looked at as, wow, I spent a lot of money here.
I think I would. If they did the same scope of work, that's fair. If they did the same scope of work, I don't know how you clean all of our stairwells, everything that we have to do. We have a lot of stairwells. We have a ton of them. And right now they are bad. They are, many of them are dirty. There's a lot of work there. And I think if somebody come back to us with a $15,000 bid, man, you can't do these stairwells for $15,000. You can't. Yeah. That's just impossible. Either that or you're not paying your people.
I'm just throwing $15,000 out there, but if they come back and say a $100,000 contract is a $50,000 contract, we're going to look pretty silly.
Director, may I ask a question, Director?
Of course.
Andrew, do you know of anybody? Have you done the homework?
Yes,
Are you telling us something that we should know about?
That's why I'm bringing it up. Yes, I'm not in the ability to go shop these deals, but I'm.
You know what, Andrew, you're breaking up. Can you talk better into the microphone?
I am not in the ability to go out and negotiate these contracts. That's up to the director. But I have researched, and I'm 100% confident that $100,000 for this job is well above the market price. So my suggestion is, it sounds like the cleaning has not been done. Am I right with that? Didn't he break?
That's correct.
So you said the cleaning has to be done in order for the disinfectant to happen. So there would be no work done then if the cleaning has to come first.
That's correct.
So we're in a position right now that we haven't had any work incurred.
You broke up on me there on the last sentence.
We're in a position right now where no work has been done as it relates to this resolution.
You're still breaking up, Andrew.
We're in a position right now where no work has been done as it relates to this resolution.
Oh, well, no, the elderly buildings have been, they're working in the elderly and disabled buildings now.
So.
Yes, and they've mobilized and they've bought equipment. And he's lined up people, he's ready to go. So there has been, you know, he's got costs that he's already incurred.
My recommendation would be, it seems the director said you need to disinfect first, you need to clean first and then disinfect. No cleaning has been done. Whatever machinery or anything relates to that job, you know, I'm sure he's going to use for, I'm sure he didn't just buy it for our purposes. I would see if we can go out and talk to a couple companies, not the bid process, but have director reach out in an emergency situation to see exactly what the fair price is. And if after that, after a couple of calls, if it is deemed that this is the right move, then we can have an emergency vote and get it done that way.
Okay. Just for my purposes, I strongly disagree. I think we need to move. They're set up. They know our buildings. They know our sites. They've been in those sites. All of those went into my decision. That these folks have been in our sites already working. They've already been, they know how to get in. They know how to get out. They know our staff. They know how to do the notices. There's a lot there that's very important on doing an effective job here. And the number one focus needs to be that we need to clean and disinfect our units just as soon as possible on a regular basis. Again, I would propose that I request that the board approve the emergency resolution tonight. And if you want to give me instructions to go out and do pricing comparisons for the next round, I'm perfectly happy with that. But I think to go back to him now and stop this process after we've entered into agreement and we've been working with him on setting all this up would be the wrong direction to go. And it would also impact on our credibility as a housing authority, that we enter into an agreement, we're moving forward with you, and now we're going to stop and turn around. That's just not the message to send out.
Director. I would add that we're lucky just to have somebody coming into the housing authority. These companies are so stretched out right now. They're not going to give a bargain.
Right.
Lucky to have them.
Director.
I don't know if you're speaking, if you talk to companies, but it seems, I know of 3 companies that are willing to do it right now. So I don't know, but I understand. Listen, I understand what the director is saying. You know, I don't want to put the housing authority in a position that they're liable for creating a financial burden for a company doing work. I would highly recommend that the next round there is a bid process and we go from there.
Agreed.
That sounds fair.
And the HUD funds that you receive pay for that?
Sorry, Lisette, you're breaking up.
The HUD funds you received for COVID, $1 million.
Yes.
I'm muting everyone else who's not Phyllis and Lisetta.
My question is, the $1 million that we received from HUD, can we use that towards this contract?
Correct. Those will be paid for directly from those funds.
Director, I clean in front of CVS. I keep clean it. They pay me $2,500 for 1,525 square feet. I think it's a good price you got to clean out all those hallways with feces, urine, and everything else that are in those hallways that we all know is there. So, and they're doing all our hallways. So, we're there now. You made an agreement. I think we should go with it, and next time around, Andrew's right, could shop around, but now it's too late to go back and tell these people, oh, we don't want you to steam clean. Our credibility is gonna be shot with them.
All right, we've spent a good amount of time on this at this point. I don't want us to regress in our conversation. Are we ready for a vote? Does anybody else have any other questions or comments regarding it? All right, if we could have a vote, please, Director?
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
No.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
All right, resolution number 2020-06.05, resolution to designate signatories for the Housing Authority. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I assume there's no discussion on this. I know nobody wants to sign those checks.
No, you do, Dave.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. All right, so can we have a vote, please?
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
All right, one question I do have regarding that, though, it doesn't affect the vote, so I feel fine asking it afterwards. Are we getting everything to Erica that she needs to get to be the backup signatory?
Yeah, that's what this is about, and I'm gonna have to, there's one piece of paper that I'm gonna have to get to you and Erica in the chain, so I have to get it for you to sign it and then get it over to Erica to sign it, that we submit to the bank.
So I thought mine could be fine because it's from last time.
No, that's not the way they work. They want a new one. So I need to get that to both of you.
All right.
So we will work on that on Monday.
Okay. All right, so resolution number 2020-06.06, a resolution to award a general construction services contract. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? All right, Phyllis, you heard that was Seitzman and then Foreman?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? If I could have a vote, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Oh, he's muted. Mr. Lewitt.
You, okay. Yes, but tell me more about it when we're done.
Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
All right, now resolution number, which one are we on? Resolution number 2020-06.07. Resolution to award a contract for grant writing and project management services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Director, if you could give us just a brief overview of why we're doing this.
This was reviewed by the procurement committee last night, and the rankings were tabulated, and the firm that's recommended came out on top. This is for a consultant that will be with us with a not to exceed $40,000 amount right now. That will help us do when a grant possibility comes around, that I will have somebody to be able to get to work on a particular grant. One of the highlights that we want to do immediately, or we want to put together a package with this organization to go out for, to be able to Section 8 project base a number of our units. It's kind of a long and tricky proposal that you've got to put out with an RFP to the community, with some HUD approvals, et cetera. So they'll be working on that for me immediately. But as we go down the road, if there's a family self-sufficiency grant we want to go after, or some special funds from HUD, they would be able to be at our side to pull that application process together and submit those applications.
Good.
It's a tool we haven't had before that we've really needed.
Any questions or discussion? Thank you for that, Director. Any questions or discussion? All right. If we could, and have we inserted the name into the resolution? We have with the amended amendment, correct?
Yes.
All right. All right. If we could have a vote then?
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
He's not there.
He left us.
He left us. D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
If we
And
could,
There's
the rest
Aaron.
is free-
you get Aaron to, I saw his
Yes.
ear and then I see him.
Sorry, I had a call.
Okay, no worries. All right, great. If we could now move on to Resolution 2020-06.08, a resolution to award a contract for financial planning and program management services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, and this, just to give this some color, this is to really rehire our financial consultants on getting over the finish line for the RAD process for Fox Hill specifically. Am I correct, Director?
Correct. Correct. This firm has been with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm having trouble a little bit hearing you, Dave. I think the audio is kind of tough.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, I think I know what you're asking.
Okay. Yeah, we're only contracting for Fox Hill and finishing up that project, correct?
Yeah, this firm has been with us on the Fox Hill project and pulling together the whole RAD project with us for the past couple of years now. They've been excellent. We're really close to closing the loan here, and I think to change horses and stream on this would be folly. So let's, my recommendation strongly is to bring them on for the continuation through the end of the Fox Hill RAD project.
Great. And yeah, it would also not only be folly, it might potentially leave us open to a lawsuit for trying to get out of a contract when it's been mostly performed, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any questions or discussion? If we could have a vote, please.
H. Foreman,
Yes.
A. Impastato,
Yes.
A. Lewitt,
Yes.
D. Mello,
Yes.
E. Seitzman,
Yes.
L. Smith,
Yes.
L. Vega.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then, yeah, for new business, I just want to reemphasize what I said before, is that I pretty much have the committees finalized, but I do want to speak with Commissioner Vega to see if they need any tweaking. And then I'll be getting that out very soon. And beyond that, does anybody else have any new business before we conclude the meeting? All right. So we have no need for a closed session tonight, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, all. And welcome again, Commissioner Vega.
Thank you all
You have
very
to
much.
share your lighting techniques, Commissioner.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Stay safe.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Guys.
Bye. It was nice seeing everyone.
Nice
Bye,
seeing you.
Phyllis. Nice to see you.
Stay well. Bye.
Bye, Wendy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.